Hey everyone, it's EJ here and welcome to video number 3 of our video series for our light tackle event. I have a couple of notes here. I want to make sure I catch everything. So don't forget that our light tackle event is going to be April the 5th and 6th. And we will be dropping videos every single day leading up to the event the week before. So today I am joined by a friend of mine here. This is the great Bill Montgomery. Bill, it's good to see you again, man.
Great to see you.
Thanks for coming down.
Thanks for inviting us.
Yeah, absolutely. So last year, Bill and I shot a pretty comprehensive overview on how to jig for striped bass in the bay. What I thought we could do this time, Bill, is to get it a little bit into the minutia. Like, let's get specific with colors and sizes and all kind of different things, and then anything else you want to add. So Bill and I had a conversation before we shot the video on a really cool technique that he uses for suspended fish. So I'd like to get into that, and hopefully all of that stuff will help people be more successful with the striped bass. In addition to the videos leading up, and the huge sales that we're going to have for this event, I want to touch base real quick with a few things that's going to happen out there in the parking lot. We will have the Combos for Kids tent set up there, so we will have food, the kids' games and giveaways for the kids, so it'll be a lot of fun out there. And in addition, we're also going to have our friends from Annapolis City Police, and they're going to be collecting all of your fishing equipment, and all of that will go directly to the kids. So anything used that you have that you want to donate, it's all going for a good cause for the kids. All right, let's get into it, Bill. So last time around, we talked about basics. This time around, let's start with the lures. Okay. So specifically, let's talk about sizes. When would you go bigger? When would you go smaller? And what sort of conditions and what time of the year are you looking to make those changes?
Well, when you know there's big fish around, I mean, I always start out typically, unless I know that I am on top of giant fish, I always start out with 6-inch because it's easier to throw something smaller, you know, all day long. And I've caught my personal best on a 6-inch, and it was over 50. So they do eat.
Elephants eat peanuts, right? That whole adage. Yeah.
But the other side of that then is there's a bunch of people that target big fish only. They don't want to mess with those 22 inches, so they're going to put a 10-inch on, and with theory, obviously, big fish, big bait, and typically that does thin out, you know, the smaller ones jumping on it constantly. Although I have seen even speckled trout as well as small stripers eat a 10-inch bait before. It's crazy.
They have big mouths.
Yeah, well, when they're chewing, they're chewing.
You can throw your sock out there.
But generally, I think I don't even care if I'm using what I'm using. To me, it's more fun to catch a big fish on a lighter bait, you might say. It's just easier to fish. You can control it better. Gotcha. I don't know about you guys, but if you've only fished 10-inch for a day, by the end of the day, it's a lot of work.
It can wear. It can definitely wear.
But that's for me. But I do know guys that don't even use our 6-inch. They use the 10-inch only. God bless them. But again, those guys are chasing big fish, and they've learned how to do it.
Gotcha. So really, it's up to you what you want to do.
And the time of year. I mean, I'd be hard pressed to see most people using a 10-inch bait in July.
Yeah.
The big fish just aren't there unless you're chasing reds or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
But for stripers, you know, it's when the big fish should be there, you should be having them in your tackle box.
Exactly. So I can speak specifically to this area like we did last time, and I fished the bridge and the dumping grounds and the sewer pipe and those sort of things a lot. And Bill's right. In the summertime, I never use something big like these bigger baits up there. It's always the smaller baits, and I'm pretty successful with that. All right, let's get into some more specifics. Like, what size jig head in what condition are we trying to do? Are we, you know, there's a lot of discussion out there around, you always want to use the lightest jig head. I mean, is that true, or how do you
want to
find
use
your
the
success?
latest, in general, rule of thumb is to learn how to jig and to jig how I was taught through all the guys on this bay that know way more than I know.
Right.
Is, you want to be able to have contact with bottom, but you don't want to have it so you're going to get hung up constantly, nor do you want to make it look unnatural.
Right.
But I will say, if you're learning, if you're not sure if you're maintaining contact, go one size heavier and that has to do with your rod and what have you, as far as being able to have that sensitivity to feel the bottom.
Yeah, so that's a good point, which brings us to the rods. So the last time you and I spoke, we talked about rods. Now here's a couple examples of some St. Croix rods, and I believe these are 6 or 7 foot. Let's see, they are 6'8". Both of them are medium action, extra fast. I actually own this very Victory right here. I've caught lots and lots of fish on this. And you mentioned if you can't feel the bottom. So that's one good thing that these St. Croix and these upper end rods do.
That's important.
100%.
You would be surprised that people, and I get it, you're getting into it, you don't want to buy maybe a little higher end rod, so you're using your rod and you'll catch fish.
Yep.
But I have been with people that then used one of my rods and they're going, oh my gosh,
Yes.
no wonder you're catching fish. And I do believe that sometimes they just don't even feel the pickup, depending on how they're hidden.
Yeah,
But
I totally agree with Bill on this. And this is the fun part of this sport, where you try different things. Anything will catch a fish out there, right? You can use a broomstick and a piece of line and it'll catch it. But man, when you start elevating your equipment,
tuning yourself into everything, as my friend Sean Kimbrough always says, feel the line to the bait. What's going on all in between there, and I think that's really important once you really kind of master the technique.
100%.
And I mean, the hardest thing about jigging is learning to keep the slack out of your line, and once you tune that in, then the rest is up to you.
Yep, but you're right. You can definitely feel. You can feel the strikes better. You can feel hitting the bottom better. Yeah, it's a good thing. So come on in, check out a couple of these
and
rods.
even setting the hook. If you have a real flimsy rod, you'll miss a lot of fish just because you've got all that line out there. You've got a bait on the end of it, and if it's a soft, if it's not a fast action or an extra fast action, you will catch some, but you will miss some too.
1,000%. And the other thing too that's really nice about good equipment, and we talked a little bit about this the last time, and good quality rods like this, is that you get to feel the fight.
Right.
That's the fun of this whole thing.
Right.
I mean,
if you go too heavy, go the other way, then
100%.
I think we've all been on trolling boats before, and you catch big fish, but you're like, it's like cranking in, and you're going like, that's.
Yeah, I've literally sold all my trolling equipment. I'm light tackle now. It's way more fun.
Yeah, way more fun.
Yep, cool.
Definitely. And I think it's equally, if not better, success.
I agree. It's a more rewarding success. It's a challenge. You're outsmarting the fish. So I love it. Love it. So with that, now you got the nice rod. You've got the right bait. Let's talk about techniques. So last time we talked, we were pretty general about the whole techniques. You just mentioned something that's really important with jigging, is keeping the slack out of your line. But you hear different things like snap jigging and some other things. When do you change up, or when do you use those types of techniques? And give us some examples of some different techniques that you've used that's helped you be successful.
When I'm not catching. That's when I'm going to change.
That's so true.
And I kind of discovered that by accident sometimes, because I typically want to snap jig. No, I don't snap jig like some of these guys out there that are really, really good at it. Mm-hmm. But I have fished with them, and they have taught me to be aggressive.
Right.
And one of the things that I knew, but it's been beaten into my head from fishing with guys like that, is if you miss one, snap harder. You know,
Yeah.
you don't want to it's still a reactionary bite.
Right.
And you missed it, he's going to come back and get it. If you change that up, probably not. And I found that that's extremely
helpful.
deadly. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow. Yeah. So Bill just hit the nail right on the head. So I'm the same exact way. I'll start with snapping,
Jig,
and
right.
like I'll use last year as an example. So last year there was weird things going on in the fall with the temperature and the water. The fish didn't feel right. They weren't just aggressive like that typical October time frame is. And I was continuing to jig the way I normally do, which is pretty aggressively snapping. And I learned slow it down. Sometimes slowing it down a little bit.
I'm going to tell you a story too, so go ahead.
All right, cool. Yeah, sometimes slowing it down makes all the difference in the world. I want to hear your story.
I was down in Florida fishing, and we were marking fish. We were catching some, and I was snap jigging, and then I definitely, for whatever reason, decided to just almost pick it up off the bottom, because that's where the fish were. We could see it, but it wasn't real. And as soon as I had slowed it down that much, I was getting hammered. And so then that kind of put that in your brain, and the next time you're fishing, I like to watch other people on the boat. If they're catching, what are they doing different than I am?
Smart.
Sometimes you are doing the same thing, nothing's working, so then you say, well, I got to try something different, and I'll slow it down. And you know, heck, I fished with a guy one day at the bridge that is a freshwater fisherman, and he actually caught more fish than I did, and he was pretty much throwing a BKD out and winding it in and just twitching it on a jig head.
Yep.
It was crazy.
Yeah, that is
crazy. And it's just one of those times, I guess, when they're feeding differently, and you know, we all love it when they're smashing it, but that's not always. That's not always the way it's going to be.
This is true. This is true. So just real quick story with me and that technique thing and changing that up. We talked about it before the video. I caught my personal best this year.
Nice.
And it was literally dragging the bottom.
Yep.
Like if I tried snap jig, could not get a fish to bite. It had to be so slow and so methodical. So to Bill's point, if things aren't working, change them up.
I had a friend that won a pretty big tournament on the bay several years ago, at the last moment, you might say, and he said it got to be 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It's in October. They were fishing, and he ended up pretty much dead sticking a white 10-inch BKD, and he said he got hammered. He said
so cool.
It was crazy.
That is so cool. That is so cool.
Yep.
All right, let's get into a couple of other things. So let's get into colors.
Yep.
So what works best at what time? And I know we already know that when they're biting, they're biting.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Now, cracking that code of changing the colors, what works for you?
Well, first of all, I'm a giant believer in fishing what you're comfortable with. If you're not comfortable with a color, I don't think you're going to fish it the same way that you fish your other colors, and so that's a big deal. So it's been my experience that I usually start out with white or silk chartreuse or glitter chartreuse.
Yep.
Now those don't look like anything in the water, other than I guess the white. You know, all fish seem to have a white belly, and I guess you could think that but those colors are very, very successful for a lot of people. We sell more white and chartreuse than any other color. However, there are days that you can definitely tell those bright colors or those solid colors or those colors, they're just not working. So then in my mind, we have some what we call our natural colors, which would be like an LY glitter, a pink or a purple glitter, of course black. But these natural colors that you might see more in the freshwater lineup than saltwater, those can be deadly. This color is our third biggest seller without a doubt, which is the LY glitter.
Yep. And
I would tell you that besides the question of which way do you hook a BKD, the next question is what's the best colors, and of course the best colors are the color that they're hitting.
Yes.
But water clarity, weather, that has a big consideration.
So let's pause there. Water clarity, because this bay can be super clear, or it can be murky as can be. What would you suggest? So you broke it down into a couple different categories: natural, and then like your regular ones.
Yeah.
What would you use in the murky water?
In the murky water, I'm probably still. Well, I'm still gonna. It depends on the sun, or if it's sunny out too.
Let's pretend like it's sunny.
So it's a sunny day. The water's not clear. I still like to use a chartreuse first.
Okay.
And then if that doesn't work, and then I'm going to go to something that adds color to it, and it might be the avocado, just because it has some different color in it. Still the natural colors.
Yep.
But that's what I'm going to do, and white's a good color in the murky water. Now if it's just getting daylight or getting dark, I'm probably going to go to a darker color, because they like to go out. It seems that the profile of that bait going through the water, they probably don't see anything clearly, but they see that different profile going
silhouette.
through. Silhouette,
Yeah.
And if you even watch your freshwater guys, they all fish dark colors on dark days,
right,
bright colors on bright days, and you have to at least go along with that and prove yourself right or wrong that it's not working.
Yeah, so I think the important message here is don't be afraid to switch your colors up. So like Bill was saying,
and don't wait too long.
That's right. And by the way, Bill did highlight this particular color here. It is my absolute favorite BKD color. This is what
wife glitter.
Yeah, that's what I got my personal best on this year.
We have customers that catch tuna on that.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And it's kind of what I would call a realistic color. In the water.
Color definitely makes a difference, because I have been out there trying everything. The fish are there, you can't get them to bite, and then you switch to a color and then it's on.
And I will tell you that I have friends that fish pink, and I do too, and maybe I'll tell you something else about pink here in a minute, but of all the colors in our lineup, that if a color's making a difference on a given day, I have talked to people that fishing the same day in the bay, not even close to each other.
Right.
And when you follow up and talk with them, man, as soon as we put pink on, for whatever reason, when they're hitting pink, they're hitting pink.
Yeah, man.
Now, it could have been in the month of May. So the May worms are hatching in the bay.
Yep.
It's putting food throughout the water column. Bad part is the fish start to suspend. Well, it's really hard to get your bait in front of a fish when they're suspended. You can count down how long it takes to get to whatever.
Right.
But I found my favorite thing, and I've had some great luck with it, is I downsize my jig head one size, because I'm not trying to get to the bottom anymore.
Right.
And I'll even put a skirt on it. So when you're casting out and it's fluttering through the water, it's dropping and it's naturally looking like a fish. And because it has a skirt on it, it's not sinking quickly.
Yep.
And I've had great luck with suspended fish in May with a pink BKD. And as far as the skirt color, I would use chartreuse, something to grab attention.
Yep.
But I've had,
that's a great tip.
I have, and people on the same boat. I didn't make that up. Somebody else kind of did, but it works.
Yeah, that's a really great tip. It's some of it's trial and error.
It is.
And then when you find something that works, and you have that in your toolbox, and you can go back to it.
Yep.
So let's kind of wrap things up with any additional advice that you might have. Let me ask you this. What's your thought on the scents?
Well,
adding them to your baits?
I have to tell you, I'm kind of a lazy fisherman, but I am a believer in scents. I have fished when doe fish are biting, and I felt that a scent made a difference.
Right.
Then I have been when fish are biting, but they're just not taking it.
Yep.
Put a scent on in that instance, and they seem like they grab onto it and hold on, bite it better.
Yes.
And I think that's the two biggest things. I guess I would say if you use scent all the time, you wouldn't have to deal with any of knowing or not knowing.
That's right.
But I believe that they definitely. I know they make a difference.
Yep.
I know they do.
Yeah, so I mean, from my experience, I'm exactly like Bill. You get out there and you want to just go,
Yeah.
so I'll just go. And if it's slow, I'm definitely going to do it. And I'm going to tell you, these are not a gimmick.
No, they're not.
They legitimately work. And like Bill was saying, what I feel like is it gives the fish something to smell and taste, and they hold on.
Especially if they're finicky or
100%.
not. When fish are in schools and stuff, they're fighting over what they can eat.
Yeah.
When there's not a ton of fish, they're pickier.
Yeah,
you
man.
know. One thing I will say too about BKDs, we get a lot of people telling us this, is they like to use a pasty type one, and our hook slot
Yep.
holds it very well.
That's where I put mine.
Yeah, for quite a bit of time, and
Yep.
and even people say even smearing them on the outside, and those little grooves will hold that pasty, thick
Yeah.
type of bait.
Yeah. I think some of these companies, particularly like this one here, the Procure, it's real oily, it's real thick, and I do exactly what you're saying. I squeeze it right into that little
Yep.
gap. In
I mean, it
between.
certainly can't hurt anything.
No.
I'm just lazy that I don't
I'm
get it
with
out
you.
until, I'm going to see, do I even need that? And then you do wonder, well, what if I would have caught a bigger one because
right. That's right, 100%.
It's hard to say.
Anything else you want to add, Bill, that might help someone out there? Any other tips or tricks that would help somebody catch a fish?
Well, if you're not covering water, you're not going to catch fish. So you make sure you're covering some water. If you're fishing in a boat, I love a vertical jig, but you're not covering water,
Yep.
and they're underneath the boat. But I mean, it's fun. But just I even remember that from my smallmouth days.
Yeah.
If you're not covering water, you're not going to catch fish.
For sure.
Because they're everywhere, and so cover water. Make sure you do that. And a lot of people say you cast out and jig, and I say you jig it back to the boat.
Yeah.
If you're in 60 feet of water, obviously that's a little different. But most times you're not. So
Yep.
you don't have to vertical jig.
Yeah,
constantly.
and if I had to add something to that, I'd say cover the water and also use your electronics.
Oh, yeah,
I mean, the
definitely.
electronics are incredible these days. The side scan and live view and all this stuff, it's amazing, and trust it.
I will tell you a tip that everybody already knows.
Okay.
If you're throwing and there ain't no fish, you're not going to catch
That's
any.
right.
So
That is true, man. That is so true.
yeah, definitely. That really saves a lot of time, is to trust your electronics, learn how to read them the best. I would say buy the best you can afford,
Yes.
or at least the most up-to-date version that you can afford. And I mean, there's no sense in this day and age. There's just no sense in throwing where there's no fish.
I totally agree, and that can be a double-edged sword, because you can be marking them like crazy,
Yeah,
just like you and I are
that's a fact
talking
there.
about,
That's a fact
and
there.
not catching them. So that's
That
why
is.
we're here to try to give you some more tools in
And
your
then, and
toolbox.
if I'm doing that, I'm definitely having scent on.
Yeah,
I'm
for sure.
definitely. If
For
I'm
sure.
marking fish and we're not even getting a sniff, and then that's same with the jigging, you got to change it up.
Yep.
I mean, if it's not working, it's not working.
Agree,
So,
agree 1,000%.
I mean, heck, you can jig up scales on schools of fish sometimes, so
This
you
is
know you're
true.
close to them.
This is true. This is so true. I think that's going to do it.
Yep.
Bill, anything else you want to add, or are you good?
Nope, just talk about jig heads. I think, you have to have a good jig head that
Yes.
has a wide gap hook. That's my opinion. That's what we use. That's what most of our competitors use.
Yep.
One of the things about, we designed ours to they have sharper barbs on them.
Mm-hmm.
And I can honestly say, for me, since we changed to that, I don't ever have to use glue anymore.
Oh, very cool.
So I know, and I don't know, well, the worst time not the worst time, I guess. The time it makes the most difference is in the winter when the baits are cold,
Yeah.
and the next thing you know, they're moving up and down on your
Yep.
hook. Well, if you're on fish, you don't want to be messing with that.
Yeah.
So just consider, trying something that you don't need glue
Yep.
on. But
Yep. Good point. All right, guys, I think that's everything. Bill, thank you so much, man.
Thanks
Really
for having us
appreciate
back.
it.
We appreciate the opportunity. I would say couple weeks it's going to show up here, and it's going to be buying all kinds of stuff for
Yeah, for sure.
For the
sure.
season.
Yes, for sure. And speaking of that, Again, don't forget, our light tackle event is April the 5th and 6th. You can click on our link down below and check out more information on the event. And thanks again, guys, for tuning into this video in the series. Take care.